Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to do a cartridge comparison. I'm going to do a comparison of what I think are today's considered do-it-all cartridges. First up, we are comparing 280 Ackley Improved versus the 6.5 PRC. Which one is the better do-it-all cartridge? Which one's better for you? Let's find out. Let's talk 280 Ackley Improved. This is actually a pretty old Wildcat cartridge created by P.O. Ackley. So what P.O. Ackley did was he took a 280 Remington, which is just a 30-06 neck down to 284, and he improved the case capacity. So what he did was, as you can see, there's almost no taper from the bottom of this case to where the shoulder is. And then the shoulder. Look how sharp it is. It's a good looking cartridge. That's a 40-degree shoulder. So what does this do? Well, it gives you 50 to 100 feet per second more from the 280 Remington. And the 280 Ackley Improved is actually quite close to 7 PRC performance. Within about 50 to 100 feet per second. So it's really in a sweet spot. And I think it's the 21st century jack of all trades. It's your do-it-all cartridge. It's a better version of a 30-06. So you might ask, why is the Nosler book behind the 280 Ackley Improved? Well, not too long ago, Nosler introduced it as a semi-spec cartridge instead of just being a Wildcat, because it was a Wildcat since the 50s. And so Nosler is the main company that really supports the 280 Ackley Improved. So yeah, this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a classic Nosler versus Hornady. All right, let's talk real quick. 6.5 PRC came out in 2018. It's, well, a 300 PRC, neck down and shortened by quite a bit. And the whole goal was, let's get these 140 grain bullets over 3,000 feet per second. And with a longer barrel, I think the original goal was to get 3150. And so with a 26-inch barrel and the right powders, that's definitely possible. But the 6.5 PRC, it's just a better, yeah, I'm going to say it's better than 6.5 Creedmoor by quite a bit. And it has caught on extremely well. It's, well, let's just say this, a lot of YouTubers I've already said the 6.5 PRC is America's do-it-all cartridge, that it is the best cartridge for everything in North America. I don't particularly agree, but I can definitely see why they say that. Everyone's going to lighter for caliber. Not everyone. I'm still here. But everyone's going to smaller calibers, probably a little bit more inherently accurate cartridges instead of these big overbore cartridges. And is it a good thing? Nah, I don't know. Let's just get this out of the way. What are the pros and cons when comparing 6.5 PRC to 280 Ackley Improved? Let's start with the cons of the 280 Ackley Improved. It, number one, is a pretty niche cartridge. Not a lot of people are supporting it. So what does that mean? You're going to be limited in factory ammo. 6.5 PRC has way more factory ammo than 280 Ackley Improved. Okay, the next problem with this 280 Ackley Improved, its chamber design is really short. There's almost no free bore in this cartridge. So what does that mean? You are going to have to seat your bullets pretty far in the case, which isn't ideal for getting the most out of your cartridge. And experts tell me you really want to seat the bullet out further to get the most potential and accuracy. So what are the cons for the 6.5 PRC? Well, there's not a lot, but when you compare it to 280 Ackley Improved, you are shooting lighter bullets, and as far as hunting purposes, you're slinging a skinnier bullet into an animal. So the wound diameter is going to be smaller. So when it comes down to when you're shooting an animal, you're having less of a temporary wound cavity. with a 6.5 PRC compared to a 280 Ackley Improved. The other downside I see with a 6.5 PRC is, it's flirting for like barely being a Magnum. And so what do I mean? Personally, the Magnum performance you want out of a 6.5 PRC, you have to hand load it. Factory ammo is a bit anemic. Some people don't care about that, but the way our culture is going with hunting with the shortest possible barrels, shooting factory ammo that's pretty anemic, you're really, especially with a short barrel, are turning your 6.5 PRC into a 6.5 Creedmoor. I personally go with a longer barrel, 24-inch barrel minimum, and hand load it. Let's go ahead and look at the ballistics, the downrange performance, what you can really get out of a 6.5 PRC. Again, we're still going to use the 143 LDX. We're going to use the N560 data. You're topping out around 3,045 feet per second, 2,945 foot-pounds. And then I really want to emphasize the recoil because that's where these two cartridges are going to be different. This, in a 9-pound gun with this bullet going that fast, is 18.5 pounds of recoil. Not really bad at all. All right, 200 yards, bull's going 2742, 2,388 foot-pounds. Out to 400, bullets going 2459 feet per second, 1,920 foot-pounds, and 22.43 inches of drop when you're zeroed at 100. And we'll just go out to 500, 2,323 feet per second, still going plenty fast enough to expand, and 1,714 foot-pounds, and only 40.6 inches of drop. All in all, I can kind of see why people argue, or the YouTubers argue, that this is a pretty good do-it-all cartridge. It's flat shooting. It's relatively quick. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Let's go to the 280 Ackley Improved ballistics. Using a 162 grain ELDX and a muzzle velocity of 2,950 feet per second, which is about the max you can get in a 24-inch barrel. I guess if you use reload 26, yeah, you could probably hit 3,000. Your energy, 3,131 foot-pounds. So we're almost 200 foot-pounds more. But in a 9-pound gun, you're getting a little bit more recoil. Now, is it a huge noticeable difference? Probably not, but there is a difference. Out to 200 yards, the bolt's going 2656. You have 2,537 foot-pounds of energy. At 400, bolt's going 2380 feet per second and 2,037 foot-pounds and 24.1 inches of drop. So there's going to be a little bit more drop. We are shooting heavier bullets. 500, it's going 2248 feet per second with 1,818 foot-pounds of energy. Honestly, not a huge difference. The 6.5 PRC is going to be going a little faster at 500 yards, but because we're shooting a heavier bullet, we're going to have about 100 more foot-pounds of energy. And then the 6.5 PRC has almost 4 inches less of drop. About 3, actually. Now, when you compare these two as a do-it-all hunting cartridge for North American game, I don't know. I think I'm just going to really have to disagree with a lot of the YouTubers that are clamoring over the 6.5 PRC as a do-it-all North American cartridge. Can it kill elk? Absolutely. Is it the best tool for the job? No. 280 Ackley Improved is, I would say, a better tool for the job for elk. Black bear, either one will do it just fine. If we're going up to Alaska, I'm definitely not taking a 6.5 PRC for brown bear, that's for sure. But I think mostly everyone's thinking lower 48 as a do-it-all cartridge. So, yeah, I'm just not on the bandwagon of smaller caliber, lighter bullets. I get the appeal. You're just going to be able to shoot smaller calibers much more accurately. And then with the 6.5 PRC, yeah, it's a very inherently accurate cartridge. And if you hand load it, it is a pretty darn flat shooting cartridge. But for me, I think the 280 Ackley Improved is a better do-it-all hunting cartridge for sure. You're almost as flat shooting as a 6.5 PRC, You're getting a little bit more energy out of it. And most importantly for me is I can shoot heavier bullets. Honestly, it's a more versatile cartridge. I haven't really talked about the versatility of the 280 AI, but it is pretty darn versatile. Even in a 1 in 9 twist, you can shoot the high BC 175 grain bullets, especially if you're hunting at altitude. Yeah, I'm going to crown the 280 Ackley Improved as the best do-it-all cartridge for North America.